Today, we're going to walk through the timeline of September 11th, 2001. We'll revisit the moments of that day, using the accounts of those who lived through it, events that are now, of course, forever a part of our history. It all started on a Tuesday, and on the East Coast, it was just a perfect day. A beautiful, calm, sunny morning. You know the kind? A brilliant, cloudless blue sky. Absolutely no one had any idea of the chaos that was just moments away.
So while most people were just starting their day, grabbing coffee, heading to work, a meticulously planned attack was already entering its final, terrible stage.
At 6 a.m., the first two hijackers walked into Logan Airport in Boston. Before the hour was up, their accomplices had joined them, and by 7:40 a.m., all 5 members of that first cell were on American Airlines Flight 11. They just moved right through the system, completely coordinated and really totally unimpeded.
Now you might be wondering, how were they armed? And this is the part that's so hard to wrap your head around today. At the time, airport security actually allowed utility knives, box cutters, with blades up to 4 inches long on planes. A few of the hijackers even set off the metal detectors, but after a quick search, they were cleared. They boarded those planes with the very weapons that would let them carry out the attack.
That period of calm on that beautiful morning was about to be completely shattered. This is the moment the attack truly began, up in the air.
At 8:13 in the morning, everything's still normal. The pilots of Flight 11 make a routine call. But just 6 minutes later, a flight attendant, Betty Ong, makes a very different kind of call. Then, minutes after that, the plane's transponder, its locator signal, goes dark. And at 8:24, a chilling voice suddenly comes over the air traffic control frequency.
This is from Betty Ong's call. Right in the middle of absolute terror, she's so calmly relayed this critical information to the ground. Her voice, it was the first real alert to the world that something was terribly, terribly wrong on that plane.
And then came this moment. It shows you the hijackers were in full control. Mohammed Atta was trying to speak to the passengers, but he pushed the wrong button and broadcast his voice to air traffic control instead. And his words, especially the plural, planes, that was the first horrifying clue that this wasn't just one hijacking.
So now, the hijackers were flying south, right down the Hudson River, aiming for the heart of New York City, and the entire world was about to become an unwilling witness.
At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11, flying at over 460 miles an hour, slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
The impact was just catastrophic. It ripped a massive hole between the 93rd and 99th floors. Every single one of the 92 people on that plane died instantly. The crash also severed all 3 of the tower's internal staircases, which meant that for 1,344 people above the impact zone, there was no way out.
For 17 minutes, most people on the ground and watching on TV thought it had to be a horrible accident. But then, at 9:03 a.m., live cameras caught United Airlines Flight 175 banking sharply before crashing into the South Tower. The reaction you hear on the news reports is instant. That was on purpose. And in that moment, the world knew. This was an attack.
And the horror, as people were quickly realizing, wasn't just in New York. The attack was unfolding on multiple fronts, revealing a scale that no one had even begun to imagine.
This right here captures the surreal chaos of that morning. You have President Bush in a classroom in Florida being told about the second impact. And at that exact same time, another hijacked plane, American Airlines Flight 77, had been flying completely undetected for over half an hour, heading straight for Washington, D.C.
At 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. Just 5 minutes later, the FAA did something it had never done before. It grounded every single civilian plane in the country. But there was still one hijacked plane in the air, United 93. After learning what happened to the other planes from calls with their families, the passengers on that flight decided to fight back. Their heroic revolt ended at 10:03 a.m., when the plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, far from its intended target.
Back in New York, that long, awful morning was building to its most devastating conclusion.
The fires from the jet fuel were unbelievably hot, and they were weakening the tower's steel frames. At 9:59 a.m., after burning for 56 minutes, the South Tower gave way, collapsing in a massive storm of dust and steel. Then, at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower, which had been hit first and burned for almost 2 hours, also fell. At the World Trade Center site,
The attack took 2,753 lives. That number, it includes passengers, people working in their offices, and hundreds of first responders who were running into those burning buildings while everyone else was running out. That evening, a defiant President Bush addressed a nation that was in shock and in mourning. His words really marked the end of a day of sheer terror and the beginning of a new, incredibly uncertain era for the country and for the world.
But the story, of course, doesn't end on September 11th. For thousands and thousands of people, the aftermath has been a battle that is still being fought to this very day.
Think about this. Over 70,000 people, firefighters, police, construction workers, everyday volunteers, they all responded to Ground Zero. For months, they worked in a toxic pile of debris, breathing in smoke and pulverized dust.
And the long-term consequences of that have been devastating. Thousands have developed chronic, life-threatening illnesses, severe respiratory diseases, PTSD, and a whole host of cancers. The death toll from 9/11, it just keeps climbing, year after year. This quote from a first responder, it really captures the deep, lasting legacy of that day. For those who were there, who breathed that air and saw what they saw, the trauma never really goes away. For them, in a very real sense, it's always 9/11. The survivors and the first responders, they recorded their stories, creating this incredible and valuable history so that none of us would ever forget. So the question for us really is a simple one. How do we honor their sacrifice and make sure that we all continue to listen?